also to train the people. India is already ready. They don't need to be trained. They're already trained.
In fact, I was going through one of this article which you had published in Forbes, the new leadership paradigm.
Yes, yes.
So a very beautiful article that you have
Thank you.
published, nicely described when we are talking about the entire leadership thought process from an individual perspective to be changed to the so-called we perspective. You take the entire team aspects. Right. And on the other side, when we are talking about money is not the only thing that could buy a good team.
Right.
So nicely, put across a beautiful article.
There's a new one coming up. It's on the review. It's going to be published sometime in October, beginning October. I call it the gig economy. I think with the new normal, the gig economy is coming next.
Great. And also recently you had one webinar on the workplace dynamics.
Correct. Yes.
Correct. That was an interesting one too.
Workplace dynamic. Yes. It's actually I have a series of webinar after this one, and that's going to occupy. But I never talk about what I'm going to talk about today in an online webinar before. So in HRAI, it's the first time I talk about, the subject I'm talking today.
So I wanted to bring that aspects to this platform, the one that.
It's on the side, I'm building a restaurant for my wife. So I've been, shifting my mind between building, construction building to coming quickly and doing something else. It's interesting.
So on new entrepreneurship aspects?
It's like while I'm trying to do what I came here to do in Thailand, I need also my wife to do something else. So yes, that was for her.
It's a nice way.
But yeah, I got there's a biotech big gathering in Bangkok end of October. I've been invited to go there. Originally, I was supposed to give a talk, and then it's full of pharmaceutical people, and they didn't want me to talk there, the pharmaceutical people, because as a psychologist, I had quite controversial things to say, and they first say yes, and then yesterday they say no, but they still invite me. That's okay. I will go. I'm, the good news about being a psychologist, you don't take things personally anymore, and you have to let go easy,
But that's what is needed in current organization.
Yeah, there's a lot of pride, a lot of, for 400 years, we've been competing with each other, and suddenly we supposed to all, it doesn't compute compared to what we've been told to what the reality is. And then people are confused between what they feel they want to do, what they've been told they want to do, and what the demand of the market asks them to do. And you have like 3 different directions to go, and people are, a bit confused.
So a lot of information, a lot of aspects floating around, and which one to adapt, which one to take.
I must say, I'm a clinical psychologist and an organizational psychologist. And I must say, I'm shifting away from the clinical. Not that I'm not interested, I'm interested in people, but I'm interested in much more in organization, because that's where we spend most of the time. So that's where most of the problem come from. Yes. It's okay. I got time, so I'm going to refill my glass of water. $35, wow, good. We can go anytime you want.
Yes.
We can wait.
We'll wait. We have a couple of minutes before we begin.
So yeah, and I'm very, I want to tell you something. In Canada, I've been trying to be part of the HR Association of Canada They don't call like that, but it's something like that. And because I'm not per se an HR person, they always decline my approval. And here from Thailand, I'm talking masterclass in HRAI, and I actually sent them an email yesterday to HR in Canada saying, hey, thank you for not admitting it. I'm glad I find some open-minded people elsewhere.
Great, but it's our pleasure and honor to have you out here on our platform today.
Yeah, no, me too. I'm very happy.
Yes.
I have people already that's coming today. Some are my friends. Some are doctors in, I don't know, yes. I'm already working with some of them in India. So yes, my next step really is to take the plane and to come to India, because sadly I've never been there. But I'm waiting for the plane to reopen. So traveling.
So has that started out there in Thailand? Have they been welcoming outsiders?
Not yet. They're planning to do that in from the beginning of October, but they are very limited with a lot of condition. You have to come with a full medical record, and you have to be 15 days in quarantine.
Okay. So, well, it's time.
Okay.
Time to begin with our today's webinar. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Around the world, managers continue to worry about the productivity of their unexpected remote workforce. With household distraction, it may feel impossible to stay focused on work during business hours. So companies apply more and more pressure to maintain efficiency. However, it's not underperformance that leadership would be worried about. Overperformance is what actually burns out the output of work from home team. Due to these unique circumstances, virtual managers need to be extra vigilant in spotting and resolving the professional burnout. Let's hear it from our expert on these warning signs to look out for in yourselves or your teammates, and how can we eliminate or overcome them. HR Association of India welcomes you all to the 2020 Dialogue Masterclass series on the topic, Burnout at the Workplace, Office, or Home. To know more about HRAI and its event, I would request all our participants to visit the link and details posted in the chat window. I request all the participants to kindly follow the webinar guidelines mentioned in the chat window. It would be great to have all our participants' feedback. We will be running a poll before the Q&A session. Request all the participants to kindly give your feedback on the session. I now take the privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Mr. Patrick Bensen, Director, Leaders of Tomorrow Institute. He is a keynote speaker, a specialist in the workplace, organizational psychology, as well as HR consulting. He has consultation right at the United Nations and expert at the European Commission, member of the council at Forbes Coaches Council, Entrepreneur Magazine, and Harvard Business Review. He is specialized in work-related issues and leadership, notably in leadership and management development, people and culture, recruitment, profiling, and HR training, employee evaluation, workplace ergonomics, working condition, psychological health analysis and prevention, job analysis, job satisfaction, reward programs, and team effectiveness and work motivation. You can also follow him on LinkedIn at the link mentioned in the chat window. Without taking much time, I now welcome Mr. Patrick Bensen to take over this session. Over to you, Mr. Bensen.
Thank you so much, Peterson, for the introduction. And I'm thrilled to welcome you all and to be here talking in masterclass in HRAI. So today, as you know, we're covering the burnout and other questions related around it. I'm going to share my screen with you all. And we're going to start with, that's not this one, is this one. We're going to start with this one. Let me start this presentation here. So there we go. I need to adjust my screen. Give me 5 seconds. Oops. I need to move my the window. Where's my thing? Give me a second. I need to remove this. Yes. So I can see what I'm doing. And this too. Oops. Sorry for the glitch. My glitch. Here we go. All right. So the World Economic Forum, you all know who that is, I'm assuming. They're existing for quite some time, and they are the one doing the Davos Forum once a year in Switzerland. And they are actually watching over the economy dimension of the world. And they give some indication of what it is. So the World Economic Forums have come with a survey about burnout that was a year ago. There's not all the country here, but this Gallup survey show the percentage, like in some industrial country here, UK being 57% of people feeling burnout, United States just behind, Spain, Germany, France, and of course, in Asia, there's also some burnout, extremely burnout in China, in Japan, in Korea, and I'm assuming, and just assuming because I don't have the numbers, also in India. Basically, burnout is everywhere in the world. We will come to this why. So also in this Gallup poll, there's indicate that about 1 in 4, 1 in 5, 1 in 4 feel burnout sometime during their work experience. Half report feeling it's sometimes burnout. I will explain what it is a bit later. We'll see. It starts as a stress, but it carries on a lot worse. The trend seems particularly acute amongst the young people because they tend to do more. And of course, the way we're living with the technology we have, with all the machine we constantly connected, that doesn't help. A Deloitte study also in the United States showed that 84% of millennials, especially, have experienced burnout in their current job. And they actually start even before that. They start at university, even study. Women are more likely to suffer from the disease than male counterparts. And I guess because it's the way the woman brain is wired. I know it's similar, but quite different. And women can handle more than men. And that's why by handling more, they also do more burnout. They also have more tasks. The global economy of the burnout is estimated in 10 years from now to be $16 trillion a year. That's a cost. Overall burnout, of course, is an estimation. At the moment, it's about 1 trillion and is estimated to be 16 trillion in about 10 years. So it's not twice the time or 3 times the time. It's like 16 times the time, and it's still counting. That's numbers I made the World Economic Forum to classify burnout as the disease of the 21st century. As I explained just earlier, what we call FOMO, the fear of missing out, is obviously a big part of it. Not only the workplace, but also the fear of missing out. When you're done working on your screen, you go back home to be on your screen, and between, if you take the tube or if you take a train between or the bus, you're also on your screen. I remember like a year ago, I was still in Vancouver, Canada, where I'm from, and I was taking the Sky Train, what we call it, the small train to go to the downtown. And I was the only one not on my cell phone. Everybody else on rush hours was actually watching a screen, no exception except me. And I stopped for a second and I wanted to take my phone and take a picture. I didn't want to do that, but I didn't do it. But I want to take a picture to show like, oh my God, what happened to us? I remember when I was younger, not that far away, people used to talk, you know, no one talked to each other anymore. That was amazing. Medical research indicates that our connection with ourselves, or the human, and with the natural world, improve our sense of happiness. Let me tell you something. In Japan, for example, they found out in 1970 that taking a trip in the forest for about an hour and a half in the forest improves your mental health, and it lasts for about a month. because the tree, not only they make oxygen, they also release something in the atmosphere, small particles, and when inhale, actually act in our brain and calm ourselves. So since then, Japan, which is the only country in the planet that do that so far, I've recommended for every school classes in the country to take once a month a trip in the forest of Japan. And this is sadly the only country in the world that does it. Of course, on the other side, without criticizing Japan, which is a country I love very much, they also overstress the employees. So if I was living in Japan, I would take a trip in the forest every day, not every month, to counterpart the stress they put on you at the workplace. Also, and that's for the work culture, we have been cultivated a culture of fear. I'm sure some people will sound familiar, will recognize what I'm talking about. The fear of being fired, the fear of missing out, the fear of being excluded from a group, not being recognized, not to be accepted, the fear of not performing enough. And it goes from the peer pressure that we receive and also from ourselves. We receive both pressure. And I will talk about, when we talk about the burnout in a few seconds, in details, I will show it again that we have two kinds of pressure, the pressure from outside and pressure from inside that we put on ourselves. So if you are feeling emotional, mental, or physical exhaustion, or if you are demotivated, frustrated, cynical, anxious at work, it may be the time to ask yourself some hard question of how you work, how long you work, what do you do in this job, or why do you work for this company? And I'm not asking everybody to quit or anything, but I can tell you that since the pandemic, the millennia, although they were employed, and we're talking about North America here, which is the country I know best, USA and Canada, the millennia actually have been quitting their job more since the pandemic than before. And it's maybe because they're really quick in asking the same question and seeing if it's something for them or not. And if it's not for them, then they're actually very quick at quitting, even if finding a job in this condition today is not easy. In that way, they also avoid the burnout. So not all the disease, for those reading my screen, you know, don't feel alarmed if you have some migraine or immune disorder, if you have a digestive problem, we all have. This is a normal stress today. I don't know what is normal anymore, to be honest with you, but it's part of normal stress. It doesn't mean you necessarily go to the burnout. I don't want to alarm everybody today. Who is the most equipped people to deal with burnout? They are actually your friends. Now, your friends are the one you actually can talk to, not on the phone, not behind a screen, your friends. Because like the tree, when two human beings are in the same room, we have this aura energy that we sharing. That's what helps us the most. Talking help, but I know I'm a clinical psychologist. I do a counseling online, and I can tell you it's not quite the same. Although I knew my clients before and I follow up when I moved to Thailand, it's not the same. And they also told me it's not the same. So your friends, those who actually can meet for coffee and talk to, your family, because that's usually you live with and they know you best, your partner, if you have any, your colleagues from work, because they're working with you and they know what kind of stress they are going through, the same as you. And sadly, in the fifth position, your supervisor, which is the less equipped, first of all, from his training, also is also the one that care the least about you, sadly to say, in general, right? Because he's not your friend, he's not your family, he's not your partner, he's not your colleague, so he's just your supervisor. And when you have something to say and you feel very stressed at workplace, you intend to go to your colleagues or your supervisor. Supervisor, at the moment, is the person the less equipped. The institute I'm doing is trying to change that tendency. Finally, we spend most of our work, our life work at work, right? So who else is to blame? You can say you have, of course, mental disease and mental health commission across the planet. This is from the United States, but also you see, I mean, it's a small little film from Canada. It shows that it's not only from the workplace, and I totally agree with that, but we spend most of the time from studying hard to working hard, and when do you actually stopping working? In some country, they have like in Europe, for example, they have like a good system still in place where you can stop working around 60, 62, but that age is moving to 65, 68, 70. We don't know how long we're going to be able to work and how long we will have to work to sustain ourselves. So bear with me, because we better learn to deal with this kind of thing, because it seems like we're going to work a lot more than our parents, for example. A lack of support in the workplace also is there. High level of workplace stress and isolation. When you have no support, you feel isolated. You feel that only you have the symptoms, and since the supervisor is not here to listen to you, and the colleagues have no time, and maybe you don't want to bother your friends or family with it, then you fall off short of finding the right people to talk about it. 33% of respondents reporting high absenteeism rates. And when you don't feel you want to go to work, you don't go. That's when you're absent. When you use all your time and you no longer have a free day to take off, you then have no choice to go back to work. That is called presenteeism. That means you're present, but you are not going to work efficiently, or not at all. Not only you're not going to work, but you are going to start criticizing the workplace because you feel unhappy there. And you're going to contaminate, if you like, other people that was on the verge of seeing what you're seeing already. And that costs a lot of money for employers. Absenteeism, but most likely the silent one, the presenteeism. Those who go to work every day that actually don't perform well because they're already overstressed. And that's a number for the UK, for example. It costs the UK an estimated between 75 billion pounds, about 100 billion dollars, and 99 billion pounds, $130 billion per year in the UK economy. And also the burnout causes accident, because when your brain is no longer there, it costs a lot. And that tab go to the country, to the healthcare system of your country. And it costs not only the employer, it costs only you, it costs also the system. All right, so that's for the first number. Now we're going to go in depth. Let me change the presentation. Here we go. And now we go to the explanation of what is a burnout and the comparison with the stress. And I'm going to start with this film.
Mr. Patrick, we are not able to see the presentation. Is somehow able to see that?
Say it again.
We are not able to see your presentation.
Oh, really? Did I not share my screen?
Yeah, we are not able to see it.
Okay, you just saw the old one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me stop that. What happened? Did that? Oops. Oh yeah, it went unshared for some reason. All right, no problem. I will share again. So sorry. So we were here. Do you see the screen now?
Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay, perfect. I'm so sorry. And I hope my video will be, tell me if you hear the video. So I would like to start with this short video. Hope the sound will be good.
We are not able to hear the sound.
Okay. You can read it.
Yes. So is it possible to increase the volume or something?
Oh, it's maximum.
It's maximum.
So yeah, sorry about the sound, but you were able to read the subtitle. So let me carry on this thing. So just a remark about this, and I will come to this in a second, about this Mental Health Commission of Canada. They started to exist and do something about the mental health in the workplace 5 years ago. And as you just saw at the end of this short video, they're actually going to start in September, or just started now, to do something for the post-secondary, because they realize that the burnout and the stress is not only at the workplace, it starts even before. So here's the mechanism of the burnout. Burnout is not a depression. I said that many times. For how you know it's not a depression, because a depression, you come out of it within 3 to 4 months, that's average. A burnout, it takes 2 to 5 years to recover. And if the spring, you see my little picture here, the spring, on the right side of the spring, that's what our brain looks like when it's normal. And when a burnout has occurred, it's on the left side of the spring. It's no longer able to come back the way it was. And it will never, ever come back the way it was. So a depression, you stretch the spring. When you release it, when the stress is over, it comes back normal. It looks like on the right side of the spring. A burnout, you went too far. It come back, but not as it was. And it will never come back as it was. And furthermore, if you have more stress to this thing, it's become soon a linear spring. It's not a spring anymore. You lose all its capacity of coming back. Burnout is like a gas you don't see or smell. There's no warning for burnout. One day, you collapse at your chair and you don't know what happened. There was no sign to see it coming. So the big difference between a burnout is much more severe, and there's no precursor sign to see it, where stress, you know when you stress. Of course, if you stress constantly, you're on the way to burnout. But there's no guarantee when or if ever it's going to occur. And that's what the difficulty. However, when you're in burnout, you're in for 2 years to 5 years recovery. And for the extreme part of burnout, you won't be able to even look at a screen more than 10 minutes a day. That means burnout means exactly what it means. Your brain is fried totally. Like when you burn your food, you fried. Or let's say if you put too much electricity in a wire, the wire will burn. That's exactly what's called a burnout. I'm having a problem changing the slide. What is this? There we go. So in the definition, it's an unrealistic engagement and excessive workload. So everything come together. We cut ourselves off from the rest of the world and isolate ourselves. And you end up so isolated that you don't even know yourself. And you look like the picture of that lady. You're no longer engaging yourself. That's when you know you completely burn out. It's not just like you have a bad day. It's you actually feel completely, nothing matters to you anymore when you in burnout. And if you feel a symptom of burnout, you're kind of scared actually, and you feel that you have to recover as soon as possible. At the moment, the existing strategy that I know about are what we call the EAP, the Employee Assistance Program. In some countries, they have that. The Employee Assistance Program give in North America, for example, 3 hours of counseling a year. Now, we're not going far with 3 hours of counseling a year, where you can talk about anything. And because it's paid by the employer, most people in EAP don't talk about their workplace because they're afraid that it will be reported. It's not reported, but just in case, they're afraid, they don't know how it works because it's paid by the employer. They don't talk about their workplace. The individual makes a split really between what is being asked, that achievement, and his human functioning, how much he can actually produce. I know I have to do all this by tomorrow, but technically and physically, I cannot do it. Human functioning always has the last word, and you always go where what you can do, not what is being asked of you. You obviously have to do what you can do. And there is an abrupt end of the productivity. Burnout is you split and you split and you split, and eventually it breaks. And it's abrupt, as I say. And I have to say, it happened to me once. So I'm talking in consequence. I actually collapsed on my desk at work on the floor, and they call an ambulance. That's how, it's like a stroke, but it's not a stroke. You collapse. You don't know where it's come from. My computer is playing with the video there. There we go. So who is healthy and who is not? If your boss looks like the picture here, probably you're under stress. So people who have a job are better off than those who don't. That's true if the condition of the work is not like the picture. If the condition is the picture, you're better off with that work. And that, I guess, that's also what the millennia quit the job more now than before, because with the stress of the pandemic and what was happening, it was already a stressful environment to start with, and now with knowing where they're going, the stress cannot be. I never met that kind of picture, but without the machine, yes, I met it. So far, stress management has been like this. They've been before we go into detail of what's happening in your body, for the last 20 or 30 years, they've been telling you have to be managing stress better. So basically, they're still feeding you with the same stress or increasing the stress, and they're asking you to deal with the stress like if it was a normal source. That's not normal. That's why stress management so far never worked, because the stress, I mean, yeah, you can deal with your stress, that's true, but the stress has to stop also. The body can manage 5 to 7 sources of big stress per week, but at the moment, we have about 50 stress per day. So you can imagine, we only can manage 5 a week and we get 50 a day. So what happened, it releases cortisol in your body. The cortisol dissolve the fat, not that you're going to lose weight. Yes, you're going to lose weight, but for the wrong reason. You're also going to induce something in your bone being weaker. Your liver won't be able to take anything. Your muscle, you feel in your muscle, like the nervous system is, and your pancreas doesn't work either. So that's what the cortisol is. We don't need cortisol. And that illness, the permanent cortisol in the body, have dramatic effect in our body. In 1908, and it started with terrorism. Terrorism introduced a stress. It was thought at the time in 1908 that it was a good stress, a positive stress. A bit like if the workforce was a lazy slack, and all you have to do is to, put the wipe like a whoosh to make them work faster. It was thought it was and some people believe in North America it's still the case. We have to push the people, because if not, what a bunch of lazy people. That's not true, obviously. And it was thought, obviously, it was demonstrated in 100 years later, in 2008, by a Canadian professor, Dr. Eric Gosselin, that is completely unnecessary in 75% of the case. However, the workplace hasn't changed since, or the model of the workplace hasn't really changed since terrorism. Really, it didn't. It hasn't yet. And neuroscience has confirmed the result of Dr. Gosselin, showing that in 75% of the case, the stress that was supposed to be a good stress, and we need to be stressed to be motivated, that's all wrong. Forget all that. That's all wrong. Furthermore, we have free brain, according to evolution. We were first reptilian, and then we become mammal, and then we become Homo sapiens. So we have free brain, and the free brains are on top of each other. Now the brain are sometimes dealing with the reptilian one, sometimes with the limbic one, mammal one, and sometimes with the human brain. The reptilian, what is dealing with is the reflexes usually. And when on aggressivity, what you do, you want to flee. You want to fight or flee, F or F, or the other F, which I won't say here in the seminar. But that's another way to flee. And this is very hard to control because the reptilian part of the brain is almost impossible to, you can reason with your human brain, you can feel emotion with your mammal brain, but the reptilian brain is purely on reflexes. The stress come to touch that reflex. That means we all react the same way. So when we're talking about stress management courses, we're talking to the human brain, yes. But however, the one that is in charge is the reptilian brain. It won't be so efficient. And that's why it didn't really work. Plus, if the stress carry on coming, no matter what, or increasing, then you want to flee. You want to quit. So that's what this graphic is all about. Now, when you become creative, that the only thing we can do to counterpart the stress is to become creative. Usually when you're super stressed or in burnout, the last thing you want to do is become creative. Now, creativity, however, is the normal, natural thing without taking medicine that actually can distress us. I know entertaining is great. There's many things we can do to relax, but the only thing that actually go against stress is creativity. And you can only be creative when you feel good, which is not stress. So unfortunately, the only tool we have, natural tool to counterpart effectively the stress is when you're not stressed. So of course, there's a way to bring the creativity while stressed, where you can counterbalance. It's some technique and it takes some doing it to get used to it. When CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, what I'm certified with, is also how to change a problem. You know, we say in America, life is 10% what happened to you and about 90% how you take it. You take 4 people in the car, you crash the car. One person would say, oh my God, that was fun, let's do that again. One person would say, I will never drive again. One person I would say, I will drive, but I will be careful. And one would say, I'll be in a car, but I don't want to drive. And you take a bus and you crash the bus and you have 50 people, you have 50 reactions and so on. So the same event, how we take it is how we're going to be able to face. Some people are more equipped to face the stress, and some people are less equipped. Emotional people. And emotion is good. So don't kill your emotion if you're emotional. So the consequence of the stress and the burnout is that 60% of North Americans are on antidepressant. And that was before the pandemic. I will say it now, without taking too wrong, I will say it's around 70 to 80%. That means 60 to 80% of North Americans go home and take an antidepressant to function normally. And it's not only North American, Japan is the same, and another thing. So Korea and also in Europe, and it goes. And why so? Why so much spread around the world? Why we are so different and we have the same symptom? Because around the world we have adopted the American way of working, which is the stress factor from 1908, and that is about to go. I hope so. On an emotional level, we become more irritable, more hypersensitive. So if you're already sensitive, you become hypersensitive. Everything, a sound, a noise, your kids playing around you, and you can no longer take it. In terms of energy, you lower your energy, you have a chronic fatigue or fatigue. It's very good. And then the rest, insomnia, migraine, digestive disorder, substance use and addiction. So you start doing alcohol or drugs, or people do anything to feel better. They will do anything to feel better. And usually they do anything which is not what they need to do. They will do anything because the pain is there. All these consequences lower your immune system, and the more you carry on, it's the, you just open the Pandora box. 80% of the medical consultation are due to stress. 80%, that means when you have the flu or when you broke your arms, that's 20%. 80% are due to stress. And I know because I used to work in, I have free practice in Vancouver before I come here, and I was in the medical office, and the doctors, after the day, people come to the doctor to talk to them. they haven't got so much symptom, maybe stress symptom, but they mainly need to talk. In North America, where the the family dimension has been dismantled for quite some time, those isolation of the elders are also become a stress factor. In conclusion, state of stress, like the burnout, is when, and I think if you look at the picture, it says when the outside world is asking you to do more than what you can actually do. And then you have to make a choice, trying to keep up, but it never stops. Huh? It never stops. Like even if you do all these tasks today, the next day, the same or more tasks coming. So at one point, it doesn't have to be a genius to find out that you wouldn't go very far with it. And we'll come to the same conclusion. When I went to my burnout and I went to hospital, here's what the doctor tell me. He says, you have two choices, Patrick. You can carry on a bit longer and then you die, or you can quit your job and quit the way you handle your life immediately from right this instant, and you might leave. And of course, guess what I did? I follow my doctor's advice and I quit my job. I wrote my resignation letter in the hospital. Finally, I want to show you, and I'm almost finished with my presentation. I don't know why it does that. Yes. So stress, above stress, chronic stress, that 75% to 80% of all employees in the world will have a chronic stress one way or the other, whether it's physical, whether it's mental. The mental, obviously, has more damage than the physical. External violence we face. So let's say you work in the face of a public, and that you're facing public every day, like in customer service, for example, whether it's on the phone or whether you have to deal with you exposed to stress the minute you arrive at work. And plus you have your internal violence, the physical and moral harassment that you feel also from your colleagues, too many goals, too much work, time limit, and also you trying to live your life, because the point of living your life is also to live your life. So we're talking about work here. So imagine you go home feeling stressed 85% already, you cannot stand anymore, and you have a family to look after, and your kids wants to play with you, and your wife wants to do shopping with you, and whatever you want to do, like it comes on top. And of course you have your own problem, because who hasn't in your relationship, in your couple, with the kids, with the school, with your parents, with your colleague, with your neighbors, with the dog, with on top of that thing. So something has to change. There you go. We have to change something, and we have to change the vision of a company. At the moment, most of companies have a financial vision of themselves and not a human-based vision. When the human has become a resource and no longer an individual, then we're just a bolt to be replaced. And I think since I'm talking to HRAI right now, I think to all HR professionals out there, I think it's time to put human back into human resources. And honestly, I know it's called HR, but I would love if one day, because HR was not called HR before, and I personally, the term resources, like a tree is a tree, it's not a resources. It's not here for me to, it's not a piece of wood, it's a living creature. But the minute you see the forest as a resource, then it's just become a piece of tree, a piece of wood that you just cut. It's no longer a living creature. And so, I'm debating about this, but yes, we have to change a little bit that, and HR has to play a great role into this, into showing the management team that something has to change. We blame globalization, we blame the financial crisis, we blame the unstable environment, we blame everything to say, but we have to make money, I understand, but we're also human. Or just employ AI, robots, and then forget about human. That will come maybe eventually, but we're not there yet. So at the moment, we're dealing with human, and human has their limitation. And I'm glad they have the limitation, because I'd rather work in a bad environment with human than with a perfect environment with AI, to be honest with you. because I need that human connection. Consequence for individual is at the world, and it's the gig economy coming in. The world has become more mobile, more flexible. We're asking you to do 2 or 3 position, or 3 or 4 or 5 even in one position. So you pay one time, but you have to do the competence of 3 or 4 people in the past. And you're still fearing to be unemployed because you never know when it's not going to match the goal. The competition has been increased, and 85% of the people are constantly looking for work, even if they have a work. And of course, the remote management that we are living now increases stress, both on the management side, on the HR, of course, and on the employee. So the stress have increased since the pandemic. So we're not getting better at the moment. Sorry about this glitch. There we go. So as I say, 5 years ago in Canada, a country like Canada that says it is advanced standards, there was no health commission for the workplace. And they just start, as you saw in the movie earlier today, that they just started this year to increase some program for the graduate. And what we need really is a legal penalty. We need to change the workplace to attach a legalization of a mental health program to the thing. At the moment, it's up to the employer, and there's recommendation, but there's no legal thing. If you could say, you're not allowed to operate a business unless you have a clear plan and support for mental health in your workplace, because you kind of stressful company, you create stress, and unless you have a clear plan and solution and cure for it, then you're allowed to operate. But if you don't have, sadly, you're not allowed to operate in this country. That's what is missing around the world. France, Norway, Germany is thinking about it. They haven't got it yet. In Canada, they're far behind, although they have a mental health commission that is thinking about it too. A complete reorganization of the functioning of company, what is called the organizational psychology. That's my job, to go and to reorganize. It's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. If I treat you well, you treat me well, usually back. If I treat you badly from the first minute we met, usually it's going to go bad and sideways from the beginning. That simple statement, that if you treat me well, I treat you well. If you treat me bad, I treat you bad, hasn't at the moment reached the workplace. I don't know why. And as I said, they blame the economy, they blame the productivity, they blame the competition, they blame the globalization, they blame, it's just an excuse. You can be productive and still treat people well. You don't have to shout on them or ask them too much to be productive. You need more people? Hire more people. People will be happy to work. Satisfaction of personal requirements, recognition at work, more financial recognition is needed, more balance between your private life and public life, work-life balance, what I call the work-life harmony, because at the end of the day, it's not a balance. Balance means if you have more of those, you're missing the other one. If I work more, I have less life. If I have more life, I have less work. I don't like the work-life balance. It's not a balance, it's a harmonization. You can work, and I would talk about the Scandinavian country, the only one that is close enough to a solution. They have decided that now everyone works 6 hours a day. So you can work 6 hours a day and you have 6 to 8 hours a day for yourself in the same day. And still you have your 10 hours of sleep. And that work harmonization, work-life harmonization, have made those countries richer. And it's less people sick, so there's less demand on their health system. A radical change in some places are needed, and awareness, that's what we're doing today, are also needed. Finally, this is an email I received today. So my presentation didn't include that until this morning, but this morning I received that email, and this is from the Mental Health Commission of Canada, and they invite me, because I'm a member of this, they invite me in a week from now to be on the first webinar on the working mind for employee. There is a 5-hour seminar just to show you that they just started next week to think about it. So it's natural that no one has it. Finally, this is an AP, American Psychology Association survey. I'm a member, and I'm still part of the American Psychology Association in Canada for the Psychology Healthy Workplace Award. It's an award we give to companies to encourage them to do better. You see here in 2015, and this that's changed. Now it's the other way around. Number 2 is number 1 now. At that time, 67% say that money is a major source of stress, and then work, 65% was a major source of stress. It's actually now, the work as now the first lead, and it's about 70%. 70% of people today in 2020 think that work is their major source of stress. Basically, if tomorrow morning, if we would stop working, we reduce the stress around the world by 70%. Of course, we have to work, but then we have to think about how. A successful company, as I say, understand the link between the employee and their health and well-being, treat them well, everybody's happy. They make more money, everybody's happy, they're providing employee with more resources to help them, and the results, not only for the employee, but also for the employer, and also for everyone around it. If you're more happy across the board, you're more happy at home, you're more happy with your children, more happy with your partner, you're more happy everywhere. So by changing one thing, you make the whole society more happy, basically. The American Psychology Association came with that graph. And as you can see, the communication is the center of it. You have the work-life balance, the health, safety, the employment all around it, but communication, and that's what I found difficult sometimes in some conversation, because we still base on this Taylorism, which is a vertical way of thinking the workplace, where you have on top those who are supposed to think about it, and on the bottom, those who are supposed to execute what those people were supposed to think. But everyone can have a good idea. I'll give you an example. Like I used to work as a guide, a tourist guide. Now the program was made by people in another country, in America or in France or in things, and we were in Norway, where I'm originally from, and we were in Norway. And of course, I knew the bus driver. He was a farmer during the summertime, to make extra money, he was also driving the bus. This guy, the bus driver, a local guy, know this place like the back of his hand. He knew every people, every farm. He knew where to stop. He knew every restaurant. He knew the time to go from A to B. Now, the people that make the program, sometime somewhere in New York, never been to Norway. They just Google map it and they say, okay, between this city and this city, it will take 2 hours. But in Norway, there's no highways. That was a very North American way of thinking. In Norway, the 2 hours that it takes in North America, it takes actually 6 hours. So we were constantly late. We couldn't finish the program in time. If somebody would ask that bus driver, what exactly is the time and where the best place to stop, and if it's raining, where to stop, and think, that the program would be perfect. But no one asked that bus driver what they think, because he's just supposed to drive the bus and not to make the program. So that's what I mean. Communication is lacking, and we have also to change the way we see the workplace from a vertical to horizontal. Everyone can have an idea. It's a bit like this Ratatouille, cartoon Pixar animation. Everyone can cook. I like that idea. It's almost done, and I will take question in about 2 minutes. The benefits for employee, well, for the employee, you will gain a better physical and mental health, your professional satisfaction, employee morale, motivation, commitment, workplace climate, and you don't need the stress management because there's no more stress. For the employer, for the company, you will have better performance, better productivity, better hiring selectivity, less turnover, less presenteeism, less absenteeism, and less cost for your health system. They made a survey in America in 2016 that proved, or just we talk about, And another survey here. I go fast because it's from America, but it proved that for every single thing they measure, it's better with a better psychology healthy workplace. The green compared to the blue, what it was before. No matter what they measure, it improves your workplace, sometimes very drastically. That's the last slide. What to do? First, you address your physical and social issue. Take care of yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Take care of yourself, because the burnout, as I said, there's no warning sign. The stress, you can see it coming, but the burnout is not. And once you get it, your strain, my strain has been stressed too much. I have to be careful. I tell you, I live my life quite normally, but I can tell that when something that I used to take very easy, I see create more problem. 2 nights where I have to go late or because I have some work to do, 2 bad nights of sleep, not because I sleep bad, just because it's a bit shorter night, let's say, or there's a dog barking in the night, 2 nights of that. And it takes me a week to recover. Before, I know I'm getting old, but also the burnout went there. And before the burnout, I could recover within a day. Now it takes almost a week for me to recover because my brain has been stretched. In some part of my brain has been stretched too much. So I'm still working normally, living a normal life, but I don't wish that to anybody. It took me, for me, 8 months to recover from my burnout. 8 months, where for 8 months I couldn't be at my desk more than 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, I was almost passing out. So please don't do that to yourself. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah. And so before we move on to the question and answer session, we'll be running a poll right now.
Sure.
So would request all the participants to kindly share your feedback regarding today's session. In the meantime, you all can also post your questions in the chat window.
And I must say there's something in my presentation was not. I will talk with some question about the new trend today. I mentioned the gig economy. And working from home, that I want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. So dear participants, once you're done with the feedback sharing, request you to please share your questions in the chat window.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, so we can begin with the Q&A session.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our first question from Manda.
Mm-hmm.
How do we identify burnout in a virtual environment or during work from home?
So yes, that's the thing I was about to. So thank you for the question. It was exactly my next thought. So you read my mind. Yes. When we work from home, there's a couple of things. Let me take a bit of time to answer this question, because working from home is convenient, yes, but there's a new graphic that showed that first the excitement of working from home. Wow, I can do what I want when I wanted to, and I can be longer with my parents or with my partner, with my kids at first. But the home was never designed to be a workplace. And we not only this, maybe you haven't got a place. My kitchen table, that's the only place I have. So if my family was there, then I couldn't be doing the seminar. So I asked them to go for an ice cream. But yes, it's not proper really, the home, because there's all the people living there. So when you're working from home, so the first thing, the environment was never designed for it. The ergonomic, maybe my chair is not that comfortable compared to the one they have. Maybe the level of my desk, maybe, you know, it's the light, the natural light. This is, the ergonomic is very important. Maybe in the workplace it was better. And also, when you work from home, you intend to work more but the computer is always open. Well, when you work from home, from a workplace, you go home and you intend to make a difference. So sadly, for the stress and the burnout, working from home increase at first the burnout, until you give yourself some time to say, well, it's not because I could work 24 hours, that I have to work 24 hours. So, but you have to be good with yourself to when it's time to work and when it's time to take a break. Where at workplace, the break is already decided. You have a break at midday, you have a break in the afternoon for coffee, and you have a break. And at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, you go home. That's the break of the day. Where in home, you don't have that. You could say, oh, well, I'm not finished, I finish later, you know, and then finish later, and then it's time to eat, and then it's time for the kids to go to bed. And then you say, I finished after the kids, we so much quiet. And then you end up working until 5 in the morning, you know, and all this time you don't taking for you to sleep. Actually, if you calculate how much time you work, you know, longer, until you include some discipline into yourself, saying, okay, no, why should I work twice as much? And actually, it's not far from the truth. From home, we intend to work twice as much compared to before. So if you were stressed before the workplace, the workload is twice as much at the moment, you know. Also, you're missing your colleagues and the atmosphere and the coffee break and things. So how do you identify? I would say, to answer your question, you need to identify straight away what is needed to be done for the day. And when you're done, leave it for the next day. There's always things to do, believe me, you know, but you have to know when it's time to let go.
Absolutely. So it's all about having a right schedule, managing that rightly, and also planning it well. That would help you balance that aspects of stress.
Mm-hmm.
Rightly said. So we have our next question. How do we explain someone they might go through a burnout because you are able to see them being fully stressed, still overworking, and try to keep everything within them? How do you tell to that person?
When, and it was in my presentation, I don't know if you remember, when you very burn out, you cannot handle it anymore. You cannot take it. So you might be at work because you don't even know what's happening to yourself. You think you're extra stressed, but maybe you're already going through a burnout. And it's up to your colleagues to see that you completely detach. You no longer go to the coffee break. You don't want to engage. You don't want to smile. You're not there. You're there, but you're not there. You're physically there, but your mind is not there. When you see this in your colleagues, it's time to raise the alarm, to say, excuse me, you know, maybe you should go home and maybe there's something going on with you. Just more than just, and people will deny, you know, denial in psychology is the first form of admitting you have a problem. So basically, if you say, are you stressed? And me, no, I'm good. It's just today, maybe. That means yes in psychology, because the person that is knowing what's happening, yes, I'm really stressed today and the day before. And yes, can we talk about it? That would be the normal answer. No, I'm good. No, because today was a bad day, but no, that means yes. So when that's usually people have, you know, denial is the first form of admitting that you have a problem. And it's very important because, as I said, the supervisor is not always there. It's not, you know, it should be him, let's say, but it's too many employees maybe. It's up to your colleagues that you trust and close to you, that you see your face, you see your attitude to say, okay, well, if you're home, you know, I hope you don't live alone. If you don't live alone, then it's up to whoever lives with you to acknowledge that now it's time, you know, to switch off the computer to think. But as I say, if you're in burnout, it won't go away by a good night's sleep or two. Even if you take a week off, it won't burn away. It's a long-term thing. So the best way is not to go that far. If you're already that far, then my recommendation as a clinical psychologist is to stop immediately what you're doing, because the more stress you add up, and the 2 years are going to be 5 years.
So we do see things happening around us, and the similar situations you sometimes come into, where you see another person like literally stressed out with the kind of it wouldn't be the work pressure, but it would be the overall club stress that we talk about, the professional stress, the personal stress. It's kind of an overall mounting aspects on an individual. And that's where one should tell that they need to take a break.
Yeah, take a break. I mean, if it's just a stress, you can take a break. If it's a burnout, as I say, usually burnout, the person will feel that it can no longer compute. Sorry to use a computer word, but that's exactly what it is. The brain doesn't follow anymore. You don't follow a conversation, even if it's a chit chat. You're not there. You see in their eyes, they're looking, somewhere else. You see them no longer smiling. They're lost. Yeah, they're lost in themselves. And they don't want you to show it, maybe. But you see a burnout. I mean, because I'm a psychologist, I guess. But yes, when feeling burnout, I see straight away. It's not stress anymore. It's the next step. You have this vacant look that you're no longer there. This, the engine is running, but there's no one behind the wheel.
Absolutely, rightly said. So our next question is from Dhruval. How to professionally address the workplace stress to our organization? Typically, it is taken as a lack of our capabilities and can be taken as a negative point in our profile, impacting your promotion as well.
And I understand it's the way it is, and not only in India, but everywhere. Because we're still living in this model that there's no psychologist that told them that in 75% of the case, this is wrong, stressing the people, as science and microscience and I've demonstrated. At the moment, yeah, they're still in this idea that if I don't stress you, you would do half of the job. So I need to stress you constantly. That to be a good manager is to stress you constantly. The only way I found effective to address is not one person. It's if everyone goes and say, okay, stop it. Whatever that you do, we don't go. Or it has to be a number of things, because one person, it will be taken as a weakness, because they say, look, I remember working for an airplane aviation industry in Canada. There's only two, so you can guess which one it is. I can say. I worked for Air Canada. They were not nice to me. So let's say I worked for Air Canada for 6 months, and my burnout came from that. And they were not nice whatsoever. And the stress on my members was stressful too. But they said when I left, they said, oh, this job is not for everyone, it's only for the strong one. I never see myself as a weak person. And I've seen most of my colleagues also collapsing at work, or I've seen people sleeping in the desk, or hiding in the toilet to catch up on their sleep. I've seen people doing this. The manager might not know because, of course, but between colleagues, we know. The whole airport is full of people sleeping somewhere behind the desk, as soon as you're not in front of them, because the stress is too much. I just let you, when you take the plane next time, think about it, just say, all these people, they're super stressed. And I feel for them, because I was one of them for a while. And no, it's not because you're weak. It's not because you're stupid or because you cannot handle the stress. No one can. But what is lacking in most workplaces is like if everyone could go and saying, okay, enough, can you stop stressing us? Then something would have to change. But if it's only one, then yes. And also people prefer to quit than to involve the colleagues. So they quit and find something else. And that's why nothing has changed.
So kind of a collective
that's the only way.
Everyone has to go and voice
unless it comes from HR, that say, okay, we're having this turnover for so long. We cannot keep recruiting enough compared to the people leaving this place. We have more people leaving, people actually want to apply. And actually we have less and less to apply, like Foxconn in China, those who make the iPhone. We all know that. At first, they catch everybody because it was good pay, yes. But then the way they treat people, after a while, people talk to each other. And then now we all know around the world in Foxconn, if you want to die, that's probably the only place you want to go. But if you don't want to die, don't go there. So they have a hard time to recruit in Foxconn. They have to increase the pay. They find people, but less than before. So yes, he has been documentary made about Foxconn around the planet. And now we all know. Even Apple asked them to put the duck in a row, or they would find somebody else to manufacture the iPhone, even Apple. So now they're trying to do something, but they're trying. So yes, it has to be collective. That's the only way. Or it has to come from HR. So let's hope that among the HR people here today, the awareness will be more, because if HR have more power than one employee, right? So it's not a union, but HR can implement a different way of working, or at least show that it won't cut productivity, actually will increase productivity by treating the people better. That makes sense too. Yes.
HR creating a great place to work.
Yes, he has to come from either the CEO, but don't expect. He has to come from the board of director, but I don't think it will come from them. He has to, then there's only two other places. It's a unionized thing that they make like a strike, or he has to come from HR that gently propose a different way of working and prove the board of director that is working better. Not only for them, but for the employee.
Yes. So we have our next question that is coming up from Kim. How prominent do you think burnout will be in students due to online classes, and how can universities understand this and make new changes?
So as
moving to online.
Yes, well, as you can see, the University of Canada just understood, or will understand in 1 week from now. So we'll see, because it starts in 1 week. No, university has been very trying to compete with the workplace. So basically, that's when I say when the stress starts before the workplace, is because before that you're in training at university, and they're trying to prepare you for the stress coming up and competitivity and everything, which is also wrong. You know, it's the same mistake in different places. So studying from home is not easy. Being behind a screen every day, it's hard. You know, I do session and I feel more tired after a session on a screen than if you were in front of me, you guys, because it would be a lot easier. First, I will see all the smile and reaction. Sometimes I make a joke and I get a feeling I'm, no one joke because you all mute and I don't hear you. So working from a computer perspective for the eyes, for the brain, for the attention, because you only look at one place. If you work from home, I recommend in ergonomy to have a place where you can actually, every 15 minutes, to take your eyes away from the screen and look. I got a forest right here, a nice forest and a nice swimming pool this side. So sometimes, you have to take a break from your eyes, even if a few minutes. You have to go and take a glass of water or a cup of tea or something and do something else. It's important to have a break, and online it's important to take a break more often than when you're at a workplace, because it's more demanding to concentrate. The concentration is demanding too much. Now, the human brain, just to talk about students, can only concentrate 2 hours at a time, roughly. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're a genius or not a genius, roughly you have 2 hours, and then you need a rest, about 2 to 3 hours, and then you can concentrate again. So a student that push it to study because the exam is tomorrow or in a week, and study 8 hours in a row, effectively just study 2 hours, the next 6 hours is wasted time. It didn't go in. It'd be more efficient if you study 2 hours, walk your dog for about 2 hours, go to the beach or go shopping, whatever, and come back and study 2 more hours. You only study 2 plus 2, but it's 2 plus 2 effective. If you stay 8 hours in your screen, the first 2 hours is in and the 6 hours is for nothing. So you think you study 8 hours and you fail your exam and you don't know why. So because you cannot change our brain. Our mammal, the technology has changed faster than what we can change. So ladies and gentlemen, just remember that we're still a mammal. We're still Homo sapiens. We're still an animal. Whether we believe or not, it doesn't matter. We're still an animal. And our brain changed within thousands of years, not 30 years, like the technology have brought us. We cannot adapt to this technology. We cannot. We're not multitasking, we're multi-sequencing, which is more difficult.
So we have more questions coming up. One last question. The rest I will definitely email it to you so that we can have response, keeping the time constraints in mind. This is from Srinivasan. Any quick recovery strategies advised on workplace stress?
Yes, quick recovery is to have a breathing technique. That's in any stress, breathing techniques, meditation, things. It's always the quickest technique you can give without taking medication. As a psychologist, I don't give medication. I don't believe in medication unless you're on the floor. But yes, breathing And when I say breathing technique, if you know breathing technique, and actually it's come from India, and so you guys should know better than me, but because we learn from you guys all over the world, and Chinese also, Chinese and India, that's where the best breathing techniques come from. So for those who have done some yoga and things, they should know that. But breathing techniques actually are a way to not only oxygen the whole body, but it actually calm your mind, you know, and this is the most efficient you can do when you stress. It's not one deep breath, it's many deep breaths. Take 5 minutes, you know, and the more you practice, the better you are. If you're very good at it, within 5 minutes, you can really put your stress level down quite significantly within 5 minutes if you practice for some time. Of course, if it's the first time you try, the effect will be shorter lived. But yes, breathing technique is really worth learning properly. I've learned that late in my life, and the first time I actually did it, I thought I never breathed before, because for the first time, I had a feeling somebody opened the window of my brain and fresh air just came in. You know, I never felt like before. Yeah, but it's really, really effective. The second thing is really to, as I say, how important. I used to say that in CBT session. You have a task for me. Do I have to do it right now? Yes or no? If it's yes, does it have to be me? If it's yes, can I get help? So you see, you have free buffer before you get into a task. Hey, do that right now. Do it have to be right now? Because you asked me to do it right now, but does it have to be right now? You know, because that's how you prioritize stress, right? And then if he has to be right now because there's no option, okay, well, it has to be me though. Can you find somebody else? Or can I have somebody to help me? You know, more than one person, because that's how you diffuse the stress. But employee usually are afraid to ask this question. You know, they is go with especially younger employee. They're afraid to. They don't want to disappoint. They want to show. So they're taking all the stress because they're young and they can't take more stress. But then they also, as I say on my survey, is the young people that suffer more stress than the older people, because you don't teach an old ape like me, you know, new tricks. So when I was in Canada, it only lasts 6 months, because after a few months they say, you do that, I do what? No, sorry, not you. And they took somebody else, you know. Yes.
So it's all about seeking help and help at the right time, so
Yes.
that it can help in reducing that kind of stress level.
Yes.
Thank you
So
so much, Mr. Patrick, for such an insightful session.
thank
The
you.
individual survival strategies and the stress management strategies of having the entire body manage stress, changing the way HR needs to bring the human aspects in HR, not forgetting the importance of communication, because that's very important. If you do not tell, it's you'll not be in the position to get help. Thank you so
Yes.
much. It has been pleasure being with you today. I'm
Thank you.
sure our participants have benefited out of this insightful session. Before we conclude with the today's session, we would also want to thank all the association members, Geisha, NASCOM COE, and LinkedIn Local for supporting these HRAI events. To know more about these associations, I request you to kindly visit the link provided in the chat window. Thank you once again, dear speaker, and our participants for joining us today. Do join us for our next masterclass tomorrow on AI and the future of recruitment technology by Mr. Vikas Dua on the 24th of September 2020. Request you to kindly register for this event at the link mentioned in the chat window. Also to join the Dialogue 2020 WhatsApp chat group through the invite link shared in the chat window. That's it from our side today. See you soon. Stay safe, take care, and bye for now.
Take care, everybody.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Shyam, we can hereby conclude with today's webinar.
Yeah, thank you.